Yeah.
I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU.
And man,
I hope my team they won one.
Yeah.
I hope my team they won one.
yeah, man,
I hope my team they won one.
Yeah.
I hope my team they won one.
yeah.
I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball, So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, but we have none other than Charles Bishop. Welcome to episode 412, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast that is covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. For institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live at KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in a beautiful home at Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. With that being said, Charles, point man, how's it going today?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. I mean, we have a lot of stuff going on. We're entering that phase where a lot of media days are coming up, CIAA, MEAC, and then SWAC next week. So fun times. Got a lot of stuff on the horizon here as football season is quickly approaching.
Yes, I will be in Norfolk on Friday for the MEAC football media day. Looking to try to get up there early, see if I can make it over to Roanoke to get into the CIAA on Thursday. Not sure if I'll be able to make that happen with all things going on, but I certainly have scheduled to be there for Friday. So I'm looking forward to that, be able to give some folks some insights of what that looks like. May even look at organizing and doing a show to give you some insights on some of the coaches, players, like we did last year. So, inside the HBCU Sports Lab will be in the mix one way or the other. With that being said, what's some hot news on your mind today?
So let's take a look at this. As the SWAC announces a building naming ceremony date, the SWAC has announced the date of the naming ceremony for the building that currently serves as the headquarters for league operations. The SWAC Council presidents and chancellors recently released the naming of a conference office headquarters in honor of former league commissioner Dr. James Frank. The formal naming of the Dr. James Frank building, located in Birmingham, Alabama, will take place. I'm not sure this date is quite correct. I think it meant to be July 26th at 4 o'clock. So I want to mention Dr. Frank's many notable accomplishments also include serving as the first African-American president of the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA. The naming ceremony will feature remarks from SWAC Commissioner Dr. Charles McClellan, along with select league dignitaries, and this event will be open to the public.
It's pretty nice that they're actually going to do a ceremony. Obviously, it's going to be around the time folks and in that area for the SWAC Media Day. So it'll be interesting to see if they'll get people involved, ready to support that initiative. And as when it first came out, we said that was a pretty nice honor for the president there, former president of NCAA and former commissioner, obviously, to have the building named after him. And worked out well. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that all comes together, the pictures as it is unveiled formally. Didn't think about they actually have a ceremony. So that really adds to the announcement in terms of the lure of what's going on there. Pretty cool there. Let me get in and give some shout out to our lab listeners. before I provide some different information here and see what different direction we want to take it. With that being said, Charles Edmund, Barrett Williams, Chuck Hunt in the building. Brother Timothy Johnson, Alpha members only, is logged in. Hadn't heard from Brother Johnson in a while. Good to see he checking out the show. Appreciate it. Barrett Williams, go Jags in the house. Tina V. Smith, Ricky Burke, HBCU Heritage Center, checking us out. Mary Allen says, hello, everyone in the HBCU land. Jerome G. Sutton is doing his thing. Brandon King, good evening, Dean, Brother Bishop, and the HBCU family. Tennessee State is checking in. Roderick B. Holmes, that's Dr. Holmes in there checking us out as he probably rides home today. Appreciate the love, Dr. Holmes. With that being said, they also announced which will affect HBCUs because we would have some programs that wouldn't necessarily get the invite, but it's going to be interesting. The NCAA has announced the creation of a women's basketball invitational tournament in NCAA.org. The NCAA creation of women's basketball invitational tournament will be a 32-team postseason tournament, which will be owned and funded by the NCAA, will be held annually beginning in 2024. With the additions of the WBIT 100 postseason NCAA-funded opportunities will be available for Division I women's basketball teams equal to that of the men's basketball through its two events. Obviously, you know, the 68 field championship, and the women's side was recently expanded last year, and 32 teams of the NIT, which is where this is partner up, which you didn't necessarily see. You had the NIT, but it was owned by somebody else, and it didn't have as many teams. Fascinating to see where the NCAA is going based on, this goes back to the previous women's basketball tournament where they spotlighted the weight room and how it compared to the men. And that study came out. And one of the things they talked about in that study, as you are nodding your heads, is the fact that they talked about equal opportunity for access. The quote, women's basketball is at an all-time high. It's being set for national championships. Final Four viewership in the tournament was the most viewed since 2009, end quote, said Jamie Boggs, chair of the Division I Women's Basketball Oversight Committee and vice president of athletics for Grand Canyon. Quote, this tournament will create an additional NCAA-funded postseason opportunity for women's basketball, and it comes at a time when we are seeing tremendous growth in the popularity for women's basketball, end quote. Good to see that this is happening. Certainly believe that this is needed in terms of the space. So I thought that was a good thing to see in regards to this opportunity and the fact that women's push for ultimately finding a way to make it happen, particularly after the study pointed out many things that can be done. Question to you is, how do you see this affecting HBCUs is the obvious question. How many more invites do you think will go out to HBCUs between, obviously, the two Division I conferences? Now we have three teams that are independents. One that we've known for a while, married with Tennessee State and OVC, and obviously most recently with A&T and Hampton in the Colonial. So there's an opportunity for them. Obviously, this particularly if they don't win the tournament championship, which would automatically send them to the NCAA tournament, which obviously is the first goal for any coach and team. But now it's an opportunity to continue the season, particularly with a lot of teams with really strong regular seasons, which we just seen last year in a lot of ways. Yeah. With Jackson State that was not able to win the tournament. They did go to the WNIT, but now they have something directly related to the NCAA funding. What are your thoughts in this? One thing, let me add on that to make some things clear that I may not put out that I probably should have. For those that are familiar with women going to basketball programs, going to the WNIT, those teams that hosted, when you saw Jackson go into Memphis, they actually had to pay to host the tournament. And the school had to pay their own money. And oftentimes that would end up in a loss. But now you can have some scenario where teams can host based on the records, but it won't be so financial just for an institution, whether that's a HBCU or not. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, I think it's huge in terms of those teams getting an opportunity for at-large perks. I think that's the big thing that jumps out. And I think the article mentions it. I mean, the popularity of women's basketball right now is at an all-time high. I got an opportunity to see that up close when Jackson State went to LSU and participated in the first round of the NCAA tournament 2 years ago. And of course, LSU with their basketball program, the arena was packed, but it was a big time fervent atmosphere, and I enjoyed every aspect of it to be able to broadcast that game. But I tell you what, it is a great time right now for women's basketball. I'm glad they're taking advantage of the opportunities, and like you mentioned, NCAA funded opportunities, so that way it's not a drag on whomever's budget in regards to hosting going forward. So I think this is huge.
Good points made. You'll get a kick out of this. G. Boom Holly says it's too hot in Texas. Where's the AC in the lab? HBCU Heritage Center bounces back and say, howdy, guys. Just left Texas yesterday. Hot as hell down there in Round Rock, where he was.
Warm. It's warm.
Silas Moore says, good evening, everyone. PV in the lab. Anthony Brownlow. Mississippi Valley State checking in.
All right, Delta Devils checking in. All right,
go ahead, Anthony. Represent. Love seeing it.
Yes,
good stuff. With that being said, what is next up on your list?
Oh, well, this is comes to us from HBCU Game Day. HBCU alumni give a six-figure donation for facility upgrades. Bill and Shari Jones are giving back the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. The couple is presenting a $110,000 gift to their alma mater. The gift is for two separate allocations within UAPB athletics, with $100,000 for a transformative renovation of the Golden Lions football team locker room and $10,000 dedicated to the Golden Lions golf program. So the event will include remarks from UAPB Chancellor Lawrence B. Alexander, Vice Chancellor for Intercollegiate Athletics, and Director of Athletics Chris Robinson, Bill and Shari Jones, head football coach Alonzo Hampton, and golf coach Roger Totten, and student athlete. So huge donation for the UAPB football and UAPB golf.
No doubt. Really cool to see alumni being able to do it at that level over six figures. Certainly going to be fascinating to see when you talk about renovations, transformative renovation for the Golden Lions football team locker room, updating that certainly is significant. And then an additional $10K dedicated to the Golden Lions golf program. So shout out to Bill and Sherry Jones for getting it done for UAPB in terms of those six figures. Carol Keelam, giving a shout out to her. Karen Griffin, Tuskegee TU is here. Wendy Jenkins Bishop is in the building as well.
Got a little anniversary tomorrow. Shout out to Wendy.
Oh, shout out.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary to both of you all. Carol says, good evening, Lab PV in the house. Carl Edmondson, the Valley. Man, Valley in here coming in deep. Come on.
All right, Delta. Here coming Delta.
Oh, is that
I love it.
No doubt. With that being said, interesting things going on, particularly when you start talking about some of these coaching updates and changes. Lincoln University names Jason Armstrong, head men's basketball coach, removes the interim tag. It's always good when you get a chance to get that interim tag moved, as its 23rd head men's basketball coach following his successful stint as the interim head coach of the school announced Friday. Armstrong was appointed interim head coach in June 2022, succeeding 2 seasons as associate head coach, a 17-15 record, and an unprecedented trip to the CIAA basketball championship game, a first in the university history. Quote, Jason's demonstrated leadership, recruiting expertise, and ability to cultivate our young men into athletes were key factors in his official appointment, end quote, said Lincoln A.D. Harris Stinson III. Kudos again to Jason A. Armstrong getting the interim tag. I want to point this out before we take this break and maybe get some thoughts on this. Did you see the Adidas Grambling-themed sneakers from GSUTigers.com?
I did.
All over social media with the logo on the heel flap there, on the tongue. That's fascinating. Shout out to Dr. Travion getting it done over there in terms of what was taken over there. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, anytime you get an opportunity to extend that branding of the university via sneakers, and everybody, there are a lot of sneakerheads in this world, and to have another sneaker out there on the platform, a platform that an NBA player debuted at the NBA All-Star game, Donovan Mitchell. So huge for Grambling in terms of extending their brand awareness via sneakers.
Yes, this is ahead of the renewed 5-year partnership that started July 1st. Grambling debuted its officially licensed Grambling State University Dawn, that's D period, O period, N period, issued number 4 exclusive colorway. See, this is the kind of thing. Shout out to Dr. Scott, Travion Scott. You said watch out for Scott when we did our top 80s. This is the kind of stuff that pushes you up that list. So we got to watch out as we unveil it next year. Don't be surprised if he's in that top part of the list. He wasn't too far down there. I just couldn't give all 21 like we did in football. We've been here all night. But these are kind of things that clean. I must say, other than that G on there, I like those. These are clean. I like a little more old gold, maybe that Alabama State old gold.
Of course.
Gold. But that black in there is really nice and clean. So if it wasn't for the G, I could see myself wearing those. They just clean like that. Shout out to Kenyatta Grambling and shout out to Dr. Travion Scott in all seriousness. With that being said, let's take our first break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll come into a little talk where we're going to get into some banter and discussion. We're going to break down the last 3 media days. This is the last time we'll talk before we get into at least one of them with CIAA on Thursday. So by the time we come back on Thursday, you'll have an update of what takes place at the CIAA. We're going to take a deeper dive, maybe look at some key players, teams, and we'll have a series of questions. We'll go back and forth on what that looks like. Following segment, since the MEAC is Friday, we'll get in a little MEAC in the 3rd segment. And we'll save in the 4th segment, our last segment, we're going to talk about the SWAC. Because those 2 conferences will be had by the time you will see us after Thursday back again on Tuesday. So we'll take advantage and see if we can give you some of that information now. With that being said, stick with us. We'll be back after this first break.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and Instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. With that being said, let's get in a little bit of CIAA. We do have some updates in terms of as they release the preseason. Changes come to the conference from HBCUsports.com. In addition to the news conference champion, being crowned in 2022, the CIAA Illinois changes. With realignment, we talked about the new membership that resulted in a conference champion going elsewhere. The CIAA is a true all HBCU conference for the first time since 2008. The Shawan is no longer a football-only member as it was for a while, but it still has 12 members because, obviously, they added Bluefield State HBCU back in the fold. Changes with the conference presented interesting, unpredictable outlooks for the fall of CIAA. Predicted order of finish for the North. Check this out, Charles. I'm going to start from the bottom and ascend to the top. Remember, unlike the SIAC that we talked about last week that went away with the divisions, CIAA has decided to stick with the division. So we have our proverbial North and South. Bluefield State has been added to the Northern Division. And so you have your 6-member Northern Division, and it consists of now, based on how they want to preseason rank, at number 6 in the North Division, predicted order of finish. This is not mine. Elizabeth City State, Vikings, Bluefield State, Big Blue, Lincoln, Pennsylvania Tigers, Bowie State Bulldogs. That would be 3. You are not counting with me. At number 2, Virginia State Trojans, Dr. Henry Frazier. Remember where I had them sliced. And number 1 is Virginia Union. Before we go into the South, we talk about that top 7. I had Bowie State at 7, Tuskegee at 6, Langston at 5, Fort Valley State at 4, Fayetteville State at 3. Number 2 was Virginia Union Panthers. Number 1 is Benedict Tigers. That's the preseason 2023 HBCU Mid-Major Division Football poll rankings that we released over the last 3 weeks. Now, you want to talk about the North, or you want me to give you the South?
Let's go with the South now.
All right, let me give a breakdown on the South. Bottom, starting with 6 all the way to 1 in terms of predicted order finish. St. Augustine at number 6. At number 5, Johnson C. Smith. Number 4, Livingstone. Johnson C. Smith, that's the Golden Bulls. St. Augustine, that's Hawks, Livingston. Yeah, Winston-Salem State, Rams, as you know. Shaw, the Bears at number 2. Fayetteville State, the Broncos, they're predicted to be number 1. Let me get into some of these lines of questions that I want us to kind of go back and forth. Before I get in these discussions, what are your general thoughts when you saw that framework? You heard me give you my top 7 again, just to refresh your memory for all the viewers out there as well. How do you feel about this predicted order of finish for the CIAA?
I think it's right on the money when you take a look at it. I think there are a couple teams that I'm very curious about, one being the Shaw Bears. I mean, Sidney Gibbs, I think, is one of the top running backs in this league. Anybody, the one offensive player not named Jada Byers, who I'm really interested in taking a look at in the CIAA. And then Shaw has one of the top defenses. You're talking about a team that was one of the tops in the conference last year with 16 interceptions. So they're an interesting team to see, can they challenge Fayetteville State. Of course, Fayetteville State, they knocked on the door until they finally knocked it down last year. So to see if Fayetteville State actually can repeat will be huge. Or can Virginia Union, with the best back in the league, finally go ahead and ascend to the top of the CIAA.
Good stuff. I'm going to take it off the football and go macro. We're going to go big perspective. We'll come back, go a little more insight in terms of your thoughts. And I'll share some in between as well and bounce some things off of you, particularly on this first one I want to get in there. When I asked you, what questions or what do you want to hear from the commissioner, Jackie McWilliams? Usually during these media days, you see the state of the address, if you would, of a conference. Particular. Last week we saw that done in the SIAC. Now the first one up this Thursday is the CIAA. What do you want addressed? Questions would you like to see the media ask? Or you can look at it in terms of what you would like to hear illustrated to the people out there generally as they provide, in this case, the commissioner as she provides an update for the conference.
There's a couple of things that I think we kind of touched on it when we interviewed the SIAC commissioner, and I thought it was fascinating, the rationale in terms of why they made a change in their alignment, as opposed to going north and south to actually change the way they go about getting their conference champion. So it made me curious with the changes going on in the CIAA, why they chose to stay with their current alignment as to get to their conference champion. The other question that I always think is a fascinating question for me is when you admit a new school into the conference, Bluefield State coming back into the conference, what were the factors that went into it and how it helps with the conference brand? So those are a couple of things that just off the top of my head that I would always be curious to ask a commissioner. I
like those questions. Very good questions in regards to getting some insight in just the business of sports. Particularly, I'm sure a lot of CIAA fans would be intrigued about that question. I'd be interested to see what their questions are as well. I also have some questions that would be intrigued to me in regards. We heard SIAC commissioner and talk about the partnership they have with all four the Division II and Division I NCAA member HBCU programs, not forgetting about the HBCU NAIA conference, the GCAC. But I would like to hear a little more her thoughts in terms of that partnership and how do the alignment of visions of CIAA, how much of that is in alignment with she has heard or seen or may understands with SIAC. Obviously, they have their own track that they go on, but what does that look like? Some talks about postseason, addressing some of the concerns with the postseason in terms of NCAA Division II. That was voiced by the SIAC commissioner. Does she have those same or similar type of concerns? And the fact that they both came together, at least what was reported, particularly by HBCU Game Day, HBCU Sports as well, that they asked the NCAA for a week 0 game. That was denied. And according to the report, was denied twice. In fact, I'd be intrigued about what that looks like from perspective. You kind of touched on this, but I want to give you another chance. When you look at the CIAA, or at least from this perspective, who are your teams to watch and why? And I want to look at it this way, if you would, Charles, because usually you talk about teams to watch are obviously teams that will be fighting for the championship contention, and you have all the freedom to focus on that. But are there some other teams that you're intrigued about watching because you're looking at their ascension in the conference, or the fact that they may be descending? You have some concern about this being a pivotal year, about them going in the wrong direction. And obviously, maybe this is the wrong way to put it, but I don't know any other way. Those proverbial bottom feeders. Is there somebody that's going to get out of that, or are they going to regress to the mean and kind of stay where they are? If you would go in any direction you want, as I loaded that question for you to really take it to that.
Two teams I'm keeping my eye on. Interim tag removed off of Bowie State's head coach, Kyle Jackson. So where does this Bowie State program, where are they now? They lose their starting quarterback, but they kind of slipped back to the pack a little bit after being on top of the CIAA for a number of years. Another team that I think could challenge Virginia Union right there underneath them is Virginia State. They're one of the top defenses in the CIAA. When you take a look at, they was one of the top defenses actually in the country. You're talking about a defense that forced 25 turnovers, including 14 interceptions last year. So Virginia State is another team that I'm taking a look at. And I mentioned it, Sidney Gibbs and Shaw Bears. Can they challenge Fayetteville State? So there are some teams that I think can make a push at Virginia Union and Fayetteville State, but it's one of those. It's kind of interesting. This is a deep conference with a lot of good teams.
I like the way you said it in regards to moving around. The good points that you go there. I want to focus now on the coaches. What are your thought process in the coaches? Obviously, some people think high of Dr. Henry Frazier III in regards to him. Least preseason picked at number 2, which makes for that Virginia Union matchup to be big, which is a question I was going to ask, but that may be obvious, and maybe you find another one that you want to check on. Mm-hmm. What are some coaches that you're looking at to kind of focus your interest on of what we should consider with the coaches of CIAA?
Yeah, I think you touched on it, Dr. Henry Frazier, a proven winner. We've seen him win here in the SWAC. He has one of those really, really good defenses. He finds some offense to go along with that Virginia State defense. They could be a real problem, and he knows how to win ball games. I mentioned Bowie State. They kind of came back to the pack a little bit last year, but now that the interim tag is removed, where can this Bowie State program go from here now that they are looking up at Virginia Union and Virginia State? So those are a couple of coaches that I'm very curious about in terms of what they're going to do this upcoming season. Probably a lot of excitement around both programs.
Good stuff. We're going to take our second break. We'll come back on the other side. We're going to go into the MEAC, which Media Day, as you know by now, is Friday. So we'll come back and give you some insights and get Charles' thoughts on that. We're going to add AD Drew to the mix and really get some stuff to go bouncing back and forth to see if we can get some updates of what both of these gentlemen think about what should take place at the MEAC Media Day. Stick with us. We'll be right back after our second break.
We can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN SportsWrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN SportsWrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Stride K-12 powered schools are ready to put over 20 years of being a leader in online education to work for you. Dive into curriculum designed for the online classroom. Team up with state-certified teachers trained in virtual instruction. Take control of your child's education journey. Discover the power of personalized learning with a leader experienced in preparing kids for a future they can be excited about. Take charge. Stride K-12. Enroll now for the fall.
Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Press the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, so we have none other than AD Drew, Brian, and AD SportsWrap. With that being said, AD Drew, I'm going to start with you in terms of asking a question from the commissioner's perspective. What are you coming into this as a media person covering various preseason, if you would, football media days? What are you looking to hear from the commissioner, or what question would you ask from the commissioner to kind of have things going into during their state of the address?
First of all, Dr. Cavil and Professor Bishop, I hope you guys please pardon my tardiness and accept my excuse for my late assignment. I will have a written excuse turned in to you guys as soon as we finish this class. That's
I appreciate it. I appreciate
it. No, seriously, for the commissioner of the MEAC, outside, and I did have a chance to watch the previous segment, you always get your state of the conference address. Where is the MEAC? We know people have been talking about we want expansion. We want this with the MEAC. We want that. Where is the MEAC as far as the strategic plan goes? Because from the outside looking in, it does appear that the 6 football institutions, 8 overall, are on the same page. Looks like they're going towards a common goal. The MEAC is not dead. So what are the talks? Because the fans want additional teams to ensure the survival of an HBCU conference. Where is that? Now, we're not going to get that answer, though, because they're not going to give you that answer. They're going to give you the cookie cutter answer for that type of stuff. But you have to address it because everybody is going to ask that question of the conference commission.
I agree. That is a form of the question that you know that you got not going to get an answer, or probably the most forward answer from. At best, you might get some frameworks of what is to come, but you still have to ask that question. Similar to you, Charles, in terms of the MEAC, in terms of the dress, what are you looking for? Do you tend to look at financials, next directions? I see a lot of activities that are going on with the conference in regards to, it looks like the MEAC is ready to do more of that, really open up to the community. You have the partnership with the NFL flag, Girls on Gridiron Flag Football Clinic, Thursday the 20th, participating ages of 12 and up, 5 to 7, check in at 4 p.m. And then I like this addition also in terms of a breakfast in the morning of the actual media day, MEAC Men's Empowerment Breakfast, if you would, in regards to Antoine Bethea, keynote speaker, MEAC's Football Hall of Famer from 2015, and as you know, Super Bowl champion, Indianapolis Colts. He's speaking on July 21st in terms of 9 a.m. breakfast. What kind of things do you look at when you want to hear what a commissioner is going to say?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
From MEAC perspective.
I'm not sure what I want to hear from the commissioner, but I do want to know what the secret to the sauce is in terms of why they keep whooping the SWAC in the Celebration Bowl. That's you know. You got to take your hat off. You gonna ask the question too.
Yeah, that question will get answered.
I got to take my hat off to them as a conference, especially when they went through whatever turmoil. When FAMU and Bethune-Cookman left, they continue to strive, if you will, and they are a six-member team. Strong in terms of going forward, and they play great football over in that conference. I'm with AD. I am curious if they are curious about expanding the geographic footprint to whatever school, but it is a strong, viable conference, and they have proven themselves year in, year out to be the SWAC spoiler, if you will. So I'm curious about the secret to the sauce.
Can I answer that question?
Check this out. We're going to do a little bit of the CNBC. I don't know if you've heard this yet, Charles, but I know Charles be taking out his money quite regularly, so he probably gets familiar with this. Dow pops more than 300 points for the 7th straight positive day, longest winning streak for a lot of folks of recent years. With that being said, I want you to focus this in terms of the teams, though. MEAC team. Stock market frame, business, sport management. We talk about the business of sports. Who's bulls up? Who's bears down? What teams you looking at from that perspective, Charles, in terms of the MEAC?
Obviously, the strongest team, I think, in HBCU football right now. Definitely bull market for North Carolina Central Eagles. They return so much. Obviously, probably the best quarterback in not just HBCU football, but in FCS football. I guess another team that I would probably have in that bull market. It almost pains me to do it, but I think it's going to be very interesting to watch the Howard Bison this year. I know we do it every year, but I have a wary and cautious eye out for the Howard Bison.
Bulls and Bears market for AD Drew. Who you got from this perspective? Banks results lift stock. So I want to know what you say the stock is for which team I need to put my stock in for the MEAC.
Well, according to
public teams.
According to Charles with that Howard one.
I don't know. I'm gonna get some grief.
Yeah, you gonna get some grief because you know what the problem with Howard is, Charles. They don't have the name Carolina in their name, so they won't be in the Celebration Bowl because every school in the Celebration Bowl has had Carolina in their name one way or the other. So if Howard becomes Carolina Howard, the tradition says they won't be there. Now, I will start with the bear market. And the bear market is right now is Norfolk State and Delaware State.
Oh, let him blow. Go get it. Go get it.
So, but Norfolk's Dawson Oldham has been there. Norfolk really, after that start they got off to 2 years ago, hasn't shown anything. They've kind of regressed after that start that they got off to during Dawson Oldham's first year. And ever since South Carolina State beat them, it's like, oh wow, this is what the MEACs look like. Dawson Oldham's think he in the SWAC and can just play around with these people. I don't know. Obviously, Delaware State with the coaching change. The ones to hold on, since we talk about the Bulls and the bear market, obviously we know Central is with Central, but the one to hold on is going to be South Carolina State.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Will South Carolina State bounce back and go back to the South Carolina State that we traditionally have known to be battling it out for the BAC championship, or will South Carolina State look like the South Carolina State we saw last year, where it's like it almost looks like at times where the game had passed Buddy Pugh by? I mean, when you look at those first 5 games South Carolina State has, they may not see a W until Virginia Lynchburg. And if they do win the MEAC, it's going to be a repeat of 2021 when they may be coming in with a 6-5 record into the Celebration Bowl.
Hey, man. Be interesting to see where you're going to put this stock. What I want to ask also, Coach, do you feel that you really like what you see when you talk to him, interview in terms of what you feel the culture? I'm sticking with you, AD Drew, in terms of the MEAC. Which teams do you feel that have the best culture in terms of how you hear their players sounding in regards to when you interview them that make you feel like, man, I just think they have a really good culture at that end?
Outside the obvious of Central, because I don't, no offense to Joshua Sims Sr., Central gets all the praise, and Central is all BAC right now. So I want to bring the shine on somebody else. It has to be the Howard Bison. They point blank said, don't forget about us. We won a championship last year also. Even though people consider it on paper, by rule, there were co-champions last year. That co-champion was Howard. Howard sounds the part this year, coming into this year. Will Howard look the part for 2 consecutive years is the question. Has not been done in a while. 2 consecutive Howard teams looking like that in a long while. So that would be the one. Howard sounds the part. Will they look the part in late November?
Then Howard said they wanted a conference championship. Didn't they come?
I don't know. It's Howard's secret to the sauce. 4-week rest. I'm just gonna say that. And who's going to come? Wait a minute. Who's going to go to an outdoor championship in the Northeast when you could potentially be playing in D.C. or Baltimore or Northern Virginia the first week in December? How many people going to be there?
I don't want you to do that. I watch it on
I'll be watching it on somebody's streaming network.
Charles, culture. Who do you feel has the best culture?
Obviously, Trey Oliver, North Carolina Central. We had him here on this show. Not only does North Carolina Central have a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, but they have swagger. They got that duality thing going, chip and swagger. So obviously, I think North Carolina Central, they come in as the hunted, and teams will be shooting for them, but I think they're up for the challenge.
I'm going to jump in on this. I'm going to give a shout out to Coach Wilson, Morgan State University. And I get some cheating a little bit in terms of what I've experienced being around him. Obviously, love what he did with Bowie State, and I think he's transforming quite quickly, I might add, at Morgan State University. So I like what I'm hearing, what I'm feeling, and what the players are saying in regards to the culture that he's put together. So it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like on Friday at the media day. One final question as we get in this last part of this segment. Which games, and they could be conference and non-conference in terms of the MEAC, which game, Charles, that really you believe will be a meaningful one to watch that people should focus on? You can pick a game or two. And again, you can go conference, non-conference. You can go two non-conference or two multiple conference games. That's up to you. What are you focused on in regards to this season as it comes up? What are some games that you focus on if you're doing the media that you really want to hear some of your media ask the question about in regards to the team, particular games focused on there, I should say?
First one off the top of my head is the game that starts the year off. MEAC SWAC Challenge, South Carolina State and Jackson State. I think everybody is looking at this South Carolina State, especially the horses that they bring back on defense. But South Carolina State is going to be that dark horse team to knock off North Carolina Central, according to a lot of people, and they take on the two-time defending SWAC champion Jackson State, a reconfigured Jackson State. You get a good look-see on who both of these teams are. Very first game of the year, and that's going to be an exciting game because there are so many question marks around both teams.
I'm going to stick with you with this, and I'll follow up in the backwards order to you, A.D. Drew. Which player, Charles, which player in the MEAC really captures your attention and that you want people to keep their eyes on? Or players are two. I think one is a given, obviously, quarterback, North Carolina Central. But if you can go outside of that, is there another player that you want people to keep their eyes on?
Defensive back, North Carolina Central, Khalil Baker. I was tremendously impressed with him in the Celebration Bowl. He comes highly regarded coming back into this season. My guess he will be probably the preseason Defensive Player of the Year. But you talk about a lockdown corner, and learning this from Coach Prime, there's a lot of stuff you can do defensively if you have one side of the field locked down. And he is definitely a future pro prospect when you take a look at what he's able to do. Very physical corner, and I just enjoyed watching him play last year.
And you heard the question there, A.D. Drew, so we'll get to it. Outside of Davis, what player do you say, hey, man, you got to keep your eyes on this? Is to watch somebody that you can see, whether the MEAC Hall of Famer to maybe opportunity at the professional level or just all conference as well can be there. What player you say keep your eyes on out of the MEAC?
I want to take a little bit of a different spin on that question, Dr. Cavil. How about which recruiting class do I want to take a look at and see what they're able to do?
You're going to do a couple of players.
And that's that's going to be Morgan State under David Wilson. We saw what he could do on the Division II level with the type of classes he was able to bring in on the Division II level. Can he do that same thing on the FCS level. So instead of focusing on one player, I want to see the transfers and the high school players that have been brought into Morgan State, a team that, let's be real, a team most of the experts expect to take a real large leap forward this year because of the culture prowess of a Damon Wilson.
That'll bring some offense.
Yeah, and you talked about the games, Dr. Cavil. I'm going to talk about the game, the one that's the elephant in the room. Harvard, Howard, where we call Harvard the Howard of the Ivy League. You know what they call Howard, what they say they call Howard. We call Harvard the Howard of the Ivy League. And with the affirmative action suit that was not suit, but the decision that was settled a couple of weeks ago to bring an HBCU on your campus, if we as HBCU people, minorities, ethnic minorities, whatever moniker you want to use, do not circle that game. And for that one day, everybody becomes a Howard fan and push behind Howard. For that, you don't want to consider us for your school. Okay, we finna whoop that, you know what, on this football field. And we finna hopefully we can do to you what USC did to Barry Bryant back in the 70s. Is like, all right, that's enough. I got to go start recruiting me some of them too.
Ooh, Clarence Thomas Bowl.
Interesting perspective. Let's take our last break. We'll come back on the side and we'll look at the SWAC.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant-quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
It's like a loot machine. Going around town, people trying to get down.
Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach you.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop and A.D. Drew. We're getting to the SWAC Media Day, which is next Tuesday. With that being said, a week from today, all of us will be transcending on Birmingham, Alabama. Different type of buzz, obviously. A lot of folks I'm hearing are planning to be there, so a lot of media will still be in place to ask the questions. Dr. Charles McCullough always takes advantage of the address that he provides, and he'll give some figures and some facts. So I'm not going to ask that particular question. I want to get into just getting straight into the games. But as we like to call people professors on the show in terms of the labs, I'm going to ask you like this. As the fans get into this and they get halfway there in terms of midterms, which couple of teams will be excited about their midterm grades? And which teams will need to be sent to the study hall? If they were in athletics, they would have extra hours to make sure that they raise their grades before we get in the final year, before they get into final exams. I'm going to ask it that way. Drew, which teams will be excited about the grades they receive on their midterm exams, and thus the midterm grades, versus those that need extra study hall time?
Yeah, this is kind of tough. And I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start off with Charles's team, Jackson State. We don't know which way they are going to go because with their opening schedule, two neutral site games, South Carolina State, Florida A&M, traveling to Southern, traveling to Texas State, and then another neutral site game with Alabama A&M with the long home game of Bethune-Cookman before they go to their bye week. Which room will Jackson State be sitting in? Will they be sitting in that extra study session? Or will they go through and look like the Jackson State that we've seen the last couple of years and just have
where they set the curve?
Set the curve, yes. Because I mean they are the most interesting team because of their schedule. And 3 of those games that I'm talking about are conference games with FAMU, Bethune, and Florida A&M, Southern being a non-conference game. That's going to be the one team. I can't say which room they're going to be sitting in, Doc, but it's going to be interesting monitoring their grade to see which room they wind up in. How about that?
I like it. Charles, which team, any team going to be headed to drop the class early? Will they even make it to the midterm grade? Which team do you say, hey, they're going to be fine by the time they get to final exams? No problem. They ace in the class. They won't even have to take the final exams. What direction are you going?
I have a team here that if they can get through September, things are going to be very interesting. I think they have an opportunity to be very happy at midterms. But Prairie A&M, if they can get past Texas Southern to start the season, and then there's a road trip to Alcorn, and there's a neutral site game with Grambling, if they can get through that, I think they have an opportunity to have a big smile on their face at midterm, and they can set themselves mentally, prepare for the rest of the season in terms of being a front runner in the SWAC West. And there's a later on date with Southern that could be for all the marbles in the SWAC West. But that's one that I'm a team that I think if they can get to the midterms with a smile, they might be all right.
In terms of the contracts in the SWAC right now, and with so many new coaches, whether first-year coaches or second-year coaches from last year, I don't know if you can truly say there's any coach that will be on the hot seat. But is there any particular coach that you see ascending? And if you wish, you think there's a team that coach that you want to put on the hot seat already, you can do that as well. But is there any coach that you see ascending? Let me start with you, Charles, and then I'm going to come to you, AD Drew, in regards to which direction you look at particular coaches moving forward this year.
My caveat is I don't think anybody is on the hot seat, but those Rally fans are going to be sick if they don't get past Jackson State this season. If they can't pull off the win in the Orange Blossom Classic, you're going to have a snake den of angry fangs down there. But so that will be very interesting to watch. Like you mentioned, there are a lot of new coaches in this conference, but to be very honest, Florida A&M has to step up, and Grambling State University, Grambling Tigers, they have to make a huge step forward this season because we know how Grambling fans they can get a little itchy. They get itchy with once. So,
so let me get this right.
Stacking W's.
Because of the contracts and newness of coaches, you don't see anybody on the hot seat. But you didn't ask my ascending, so you decided to go descending. There's 2 coaches that have the chance to descend into or is that hot seat if it doesn't work out. Same thing with you, AD Drew.
Yeah.
Did I read that wrong?
No. If I think about it, if I do think about it, I think obviously Texas Southern's head coach will probably have the warmest seat, if you will.
Yeah, and that was obvious and why you probably left it out there. He's at the end of his contract. So absolutely to your point. AD Drew, what about you in regards to ascending, descending coaches? Which direction you going?
I don't know if these coaches would be on the hot seat, but somebody will definitely be chopping down some wood and gathering some logs if these teams do not get off to a good start. And that is going to be one Hugh Jackson at Grambling State. And people, if Alabama A&M, who has a hell of a tough schedule to start, well, they got Vanderbilt and Southern, but they've got 2 D2s on their schedule. You remember what Lane did last year to Tennessee State?
Yes.
Alabama A&M and Tuskegee is Alabama A&M and Tuskegee. We'll just leave that right there. So if Connell Maynard loses to either one of those D2s, coupled with a possible loss to a Southern or a slip up against a UAPB, we're going to go ahead and chalk up Vanderbilt. You know, people going to forget that he won that SWAC championship, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. They will forget about Aquia Glass and the success that he had with Aquia Glass and start gathering logs on him to be able to set the campfire and do something with him.
Y'all have I just like the way y'all warm up these seats. Y'all just don't put the hot fry. Y'all let it simmer. Y'all gonna simmer to put the water in the put the frog in the boiling water. Y'all gonna let it simmer. Don't even know it's hot. Good stuff there. Good points there. Let me stick with you, AD Drew, in terms of players. Let's get into some players. Get into who are some people that you want to keep your eyes on in terms of the SWAC. Who has you excited, whether it's on the defense, offensive side? What are your thoughts in terms of key players this year?
Well, obviously the obvious one is Jerry Busa, probably the top-rated quarterback in the SWAC coming back. But let's talk about another quarterback in the SWAC. And that's where you work at, Dr. Cavil. That's Andrew Body. Can they keep Andrew Body upright and healthy? And can Andrew Body become that dual threat quarterback that we've always expected him to be with if he's healthy? And I said this yesterday on the SportsWrap when I was talking about Allen, and I'll say this about Texas Southern. Texas Southern hasn't been able to stop a running nose on defense. You know, it's always leaking. So can Texas Southern play enough defense where Andrew Body does not have to play hero and will Texas Southern the victory? And Grambling is going to be interesting. You know, I'm talking smack about Hugh Jackson, but with Tyler Baker coming in to add it to what we know Jarvion Howard could do, Grambling is going to be that. Either they're going to be that wild card factor, or they're going to be garbage. Grambling will not be mediocre, I don't think, this year. They're either going to be hot or garbage.
Charles, where are you going with players to watch? You gonna go on the offensive side of the ball where everybody gets excited, traditional quarterback, or you go defense? I know I love what you talked about when you pointed out Central. You went to the cornerback and put your focus squarely on the defense. As we see somebody that lock down some receivers and get some interceptions, maybe even get a pick six. Where are you going with the SWAC in terms of player that has your interest that we must keep our eyes on this year?
Well, I said this is a year of the running back, and I do believe there are a couple of guys. Jarvin Howard at Alcorn, he is a load to bring down. Donovan Eagley at Alabama A&M, same type of hard runner in between the tackles. And I think a wild card for me, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, for me, can some offensive coordinators integrate tight ends into their offenses? Because I think you have two players, one in the SWAC and one in the MEAC, who are transformative because they're big, fast, they can block. They are legit pro prospects. In the SWAC, you have a young man by the name of DJ Stevens, an underrated receiver, but he was very much a safety valve for Shedeur Sanders last year. And I mentioned Brendan Brown at Howard over there in the MEAC. Who is the pass rusher? That is a big question mark for me in the SWAC this upcoming year. Sandiata Anderson for Grambling State. Is he the next big-time SWAC pass rusher that everybody has the game plan for?
You know, one that has my interest I haven't heard much about. And I heard a couple of folks say, amongst, obviously, keep your eyes on Texas Southern University, rightfully so. Southern has some expectation, and people even have talked about Alcorn in regards to them ascending back to the top. But some people have talked about Prairie View. But I think in a lot of ways, while quarterbacks have been a focus part, I haven't heard about Trayvon Conley. I'm very interested to see, will he ascend and take the next step? I'm really interested. He was a type of guy last year that had some really big games. Certainly with his feet, but sometimes in the air. But I think a lot of people are concerned about his consistency, rightfully so. But he comes from Duncanville, very rich program out here. He's been out there working on his games. I heard he's improved, and he's getting pushed a little bit by a transfer quarterback. I'm really interested to see, because I think he'll get the nod. Will he relinquish, and what will he do this season in regards to seeing if he can take the next step and get his name out front, rightfully so, a lot of folks that have seen ahead of him. So I'm really fascinating from that perspective of not somebody that I know is going to probably transcend, but somebody I'm questioning to see, can they take that next step? So I'm really focused. In a lot of ways, obviously, I think the Prairie View football team goes based on where he goes and what he's able to do. And particularly those folks that believe that Prairie View can get back to the championship game, he will be the reason why, if they get it done, to me. Although a lot of folks are focused more in terms of the running back, thinking they'll run the ball by committee. So I'm focused on that. Last question here. Is it too many good games as we get to close out the show? I want to ask you in terms, I'm going to give you two games. You can sneak in a third one if you want. I want to get in two games in regards to what games you want to keep your eyes on this year. Obviously, Charles snuck one out from the MEAC in regards, and that probably goes duopoly both ways. So I'll put that one out there for you in terms of MEAC SWAC challenge. And obviously, you open it up in terms of the MEAC commissioner question, the Celebration Bowl. So we're going to keep eyes on that to see who makes it there from the SWAC, first of all, what that looks like. But with that being said, what game, Drew, who has your focus point this year in terms of what game you really want to see throughout the season? Is it an early game, a late game, mid-season type of game? Is it a divisional matchup in terms of your eyes, or is it actually a non-conference game in terms of the SWAC?
Are you serious? You just asked me what game do I want to focus on? Did he just ask me that, Charles?
I give you. I think you got two of them.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. Charles has already mentioned it. The SWAC East will be determined
I said
in
myself
Miami Garden. In Miami Garden. I'm like the athletes right now. I'm focused on the first game. And FAMU's first game is Jackson State. Jackson State, I don't know if FAMU has a mental block against Jackson State or what. Because, can I tell y'all something? This didn't start with Coach Prime, y'all.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't.
This has gone on. This was happening just like Jackson State had fans before Prime. Jackson State had victories against FAMU before Prime also. Just want to let everybody know that. This is not a new phenomenon that we've been dealing with in Tallahassee. So that is the first game that I have to focus on. The second game also involves Jackson State. That's going to be Jackson State Alcorn at the end of the season.
At the end of the season. I like it. Start.
I am really expecting Alcorn to be a play and return to those winning ways that they had in the East after, a couple years of transition to the West. Everybody, Alcorn's been playing with one hand tied behind their back ever since they've gone to the West because, they took all the home games away from them the first year because of COVID, and they still had to pay back some games last year. This is the first year since COVID Alcorn has had the schedule and able to play the schedule as it was originally intended to be played. So with that, with Fred McNair's pedigree as a winner, before Jackson State dominated the SWAC, Alcorn dominated the SWAC. So, I'm thinking that's going to translate since they've got all those things handled. Two quick questions about games since you brought up games, Dr. Cavil, and then I'm going to turn it over to Charles. Hey, how in the hell does Mississippi Valley State go to a Division II school, an FCS going to a Division II school, even though it's an in-state rival? That just don't seem right. Is Delta State paying Valley? If they are, then we got some problems that we need to look at down in Valley. And is Lincoln, California, the new Virginia Lynchburg?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Asked and answered. Go ahead, Charles.
I think the obvious game is going to be, of course, the Orange Blossom Classic, Jackson State and Florida A&M. But I think I kind of set this up a little bit earlier. If Prairie View can maneuver themselves through September and get to the midterms with a smile on their face, keep an eye on this October 28th matchup, Prairie View and Florida A&M. It could be a preview of the SWAC championship.
That's a good one.
Homecoming.
Homecoming. Florida A&M. Yeah.
Man, that's both of y'all hit some games that had me intrigued, particularly the way you broke them down. For the lab listeners out there, I want you all to put in the chat, what are the 2 or 3 games, whether it's in the CIAA, SIAC for that case, MEAC or SWAC, and you can do all of them. Which are the 2 or 3 games that you have coming into the season that you have your eyes on? As we play through this out, we'll record this and we'll come back to see as we get closer to those games, are there still games that we want to keep our eyes on? Are there games that we're watching for a different reason? With that, thank you, A.D. Drew, for joining us. Thank you, Charles, as always. Thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you catch our podcast and your friend and tell your friends and your colleagues. I'm Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and A.D. Drew. Again, thank you for listening, Dr. Liz, inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday. And next time you hear from me, Thursday, I will be in Norfolk getting ready for the MEAC Media Day. We have a great interview lined up. We're going to take it a little bit off in regards to the sports, and we'll come back next week as we will give you all the different views, but we'll have an interview with the professor that's going to talk a little bit about the outside and cultural aspects in the business side of sports. So we're going to give you some in-depth before you get ready for it, and also talk about his new study coming up, which I think will be fascinating that he's planning to do. We're just going to go to a couple of HBCU football games and take a deeper dive and look at the tailgate coach. And so I'm intrigued about that. I'm looking forward to working with him on that as we get that done. So we'll get a chance maybe to tease that out a little bit, but we'll focus on his current study. With that being said, we look forward to this Thursday as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's Dr. KenyattaCavil. It's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube and Facebook, as you know. Like, subscribe. Make sure you download my JBN, my BCSN. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Horse.
Drew?
Lecture.
Dismiss.